we put kind of toe in the water with a show that we did in conjunction with Norwegian television called Lilyhammer, which would seem like an odd choice to start off with, considering it's 60% in Norwegian, subtitled in English. But it features an American star with Stevie Van Zandt playing a really familiar character, which is most people recognize as he's kind of just like that guy in The Sopranos, because he plays a character very similar to the one he created for The Sopranos. And he's a mobster in witness relocation in Lillehammer, Norway. And it's an 8-episode show that we launched a few months ago to great success in terms of connecting and finding the audience. It's very wildly successful in the U.S. and in Canada and even in Latin America, given it's an English and Norwegian show. But in 2013, we'll be launching a full slate of original programming, starting with House of Cards, produced by David Fincher. David Fincher's directing the first 2 episodes, exec producing the entire series, written by Beau Willimon, who was just Oscar nominated for Ides of March, starring Kevin Spacey and Robin Wright, Kate Mara. Big drama set in Washington politics. It's a remake of the BBC series House of Cards. Followed by that, we'll have an original 4th season of Arrested Development, kind of backed by popular demand, which we are in production of right now and incredibly excited about how it's coming along. And then followed by another series, a horror series called Hemlock Grove, that's being produced by Eli Roth and directed by Eli Roth, which you think about it like Twin Peaks with monsters. And then we have a series that we're doing in conjunction with Channel 4 in London called Derek, written starring Ricky Gervais, that will launch this year in 2013 as well. And then after that, Orange is the New Black, which is the new series from Gingy Cohen, who created Weeds for Showtime, which we're also very excited about.
Is that 2013?
All 13, all in physical production as we speak, in LA, Toronto, Baltimore.
And a second season of Lilyhammer?
And a second season of Lilyhammer, 13 as well.
So that's, of course, math, not my strong point, 6
yes,
6 shows.
6 seasons of new content in 13.
Is that the sort of pace that you see setting going forward? Are you going to do 6 additional shows in 2014?
We've not announced anything beyond our 13 slate. We anticipate most of them will have second seasons in 14 and maybe even as early as late 13. And we're moving in and seeing how it works, seeing how this is a new skill set that we're working on in terms of being able to launch original content brands. We have a high confidence of it, given that we launch what is for most people a new content brand every day. If you think about a show like Mad Men, which is a great show, no question, depending on how you measure it, you can measure it by Emmys or people's favorite or on and on and on. And what you end up with, though, is that most of the country has never seen an episode of Mad Men. So our ability to launch and successfully launch a show like Mad Men is increasing our confidence in this.
To that end, though, how do you launch a show like this? Because, you're not dealing with time slots. Are you going to have billboards on, Sunset saying Lilyhammer season 2?
I think we have a tremendous advantage in our purely on-demand model, which is I think a lot of shows that don't make it. They don't make it not because sometimes they were just bad shows, no question, but mostly because they were programmed at the wrong time, marketed poorly, or just didn't connect with the audience. And the stakes of that time slot are so high that a show that is on the edge won't make it past the 3rd episode. And so if you think about giving the American public one door and saying, this door is open on Wednesday night from 8 to 10 or 8 to 9, and if you miss it, you may or may not ever have a point to get back in. So, I think creating stakes like that for content, it doesn't make any sense. So from my perspective, what we do know is who is the audience for the show, who is that target audience. And what I don't need to do is throw a net over the entire universe to try to catch those few people who are going to want to watch this show. What we use is the same way that we program the site today, using ratings data and merchandising algorithms to put the show front and center in front of the greatest potential audience for the show. Those folks who will love the show will see it very prominently, and those people who are unlikely to like it may have to search for it. So we're not going to hammer the audience with programming.
But how do you measure success then? It's great that you are allowing a show to sort of develop an audience organically, But, I mean, if they're not ratings, what do you
Well,
sort of
remember,
measure
there's
success?
not, the show is not uniquely valuable at Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. It's valuable, the viewing is valuable throughout the license period. So if we own the show for many years, it's just as valuable for me that you watch it, next week, next year as next week. So a good example of that is, again, back to Mad Men for a minute. We've had Mad Men on Netflix for years, and it's been on the air for over 5. Last night, the most watched episode of Mad Men was episode 1, season 1. So that audience is building every day.
Yeah.
So if I put all the pressure on making it work in a certain time, the show is very likely to fail. So when you say what is success, success is viewing relative and spending relative to what else we would have spent on that viewing. So if I can get more viewing on less money, we should do that. But the other one would be that we kind of back into the economic model by establishing first the size of the audience, the likeliness that we can attract the audience to it, and the likeliness that they will respond.
But so if you are sort of redeploying the money that you would have spent on content, I know that, for example, House of Cards, there are reports it costs $100 million for the season. Now that's a lot of money. It's potential that you could license an awful lot of content for that, not necessarily on an exclusive basis, but it is shrinking the amount of offerings that you have on your site, is it not?
What we've been doing is being able to grow viewing hours on less content all the time. I think one of the interesting kind of evolutions of our business, a lot of people talk about the DVD to streaming evolution. There's one that we're also in the middle of right now, which is the evolution from being perceived as a distributor to being a programmer, which we've actually always been a programmer. We don't carry everything, but we have this DNA, based on the DVD roots, that we carry everything. And therefore, we must be more like Comcast than we are like HBO.
Right.
But in fact, we are very much more like HBO in that we use programming dollars. We put things on Netflix that we want people to watch. And relative to what we're spending on it, if they're not watching it, we don't renew those deals.
So, I mean, do you see yourself more as a television network for the 21st century and less as, say, iTunes?
Yeah, it's a television network on steroids, but yeah. And considering the amount of programming and considering the amount of original programming and exclusive programming, if you stack it up against any single network, it's enormous amount to watch, and that's why starting as early as late this summer, we started streaming over 1 billion hours a month of content, which puts us competitive. That we're getting more viewing than any single network, than any single cable channel, and only being beaten today cumulatively by the viewing hours on the networks, which are dominated by sports viewing.